Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for part 2 of the Q&A. So let's go ahead and knock this out. All right, first question, and this one's a doozy. Greene has written a new book on veganism after turning vegan a week ago. Thoughts? I have a lot of thoughts on this, and I'm going to avoid making a grapefruit joke here. All right, we're going to avoid the grapefruit joke. But look, here's the reality of it. Bodybuilding doesn't have much financial prospects. Let's be realistic here. Most serious bodybuilders have to support their lifestyle through various illicit means. Okay, it's an extremely expensive lifestyle. It requires a large amount of dedication, and most of them don't develop any life skills or any abilities outside of their ability to uh, pin themselves with a syringe all day, eat 10 meals a day, and bluff and pump on machines all day. Now, the average bodybuilder, unfortunately, doesn't even know how to train. Right? Realistically, they couldn't coach a high school football team in the weight room. They never learned the basics or fundamentals of training because their own world dictates, oftentimes, because of some of the side effects of their lifestyle and the things that they do, they can't even always follow normal training programs that would work great for building up a young athlete. Right? Their training is so vastly different and so specialized to people who use copious amounts of site enhancement and have weak tendons and everything else. Again, due to what they do, they don't even develop any useful skills in the area of training frequently. And I'm not saying there aren't exceptions. I'm not saying there aren't exceptions, but that is pretty common. I mean, realistically, go talk to the average pro bodybuilder. They're extremely ignorant, usually about basic biomechanics and training programming. Their life revolves around working around all the stuff they put into their body. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. You have guys like Greene, did his best to make it in bodybuilding, pro bodybuilding. Never quite reached the top, got close a couple times, a lot of politics involved. His shady past, some of it affected it. There's politics there, guys. It's a beauty pageant. A weird, bizarre, fetishized beauty pageant, okay? Means that there's no objective criteria for judging. So the politics of all his old G4P stuff probably affected him. So what happens? This big, new, trendy vegan propaganda documentary comes out. Right? That's what happened. Now, people who see this, who jump on board because it'll make veganism trend a little bit, it'll be popular for a short time, people are going to be able to jump in and make money off of it. All right? Furthermore, people are laughing and saying, well, he's been a vegan for a week and decides to write a book on it. Yeah, but here's the thing. He obviously has no experience with it. He obviously didn't do anything that he's ever done in his life as a vegan. But it doesn't matter to vegans because they're their own little cult and they support everyone who's a vegan. Okay? There will be vegans who buy his book. This is good marketing. For someone who has no other life skills outside of their publicity there, well, what he could do with a grapefruit. And again, a lot of vegans are might be into that. They got a fruit fetish. Very common. They might like that. But the point is, this is clever marketing for him because he knows vegans will buy the book. Former second best bodybuilder in the world becomes vegan and endorses veganism. See, to them, that'll just be something that they can highlight and showcase. Aha, see, you can build muscle as a vegan, right? Because Greene's a vegan. Even though he doesn't know anything about it and he's never been one before, he tried it for a week and writes a book. His publicists and his PR people probably know, hey, vegans will buy this. They'll buy it. People who are interested in veganism will buy it, even though they may not realize when they first buy it, he doesn't have any experience. But it doesn't matter, because he's going to make money on it. So from a marketing perspective, I think it's very clever, right? And he's had to learn how to survive in that world. I mean, he's had to survive in the bodybuilding world. You've got to learn to survive on your public image and marketing. And I think it's clever marketing. I think the whole thing is ludicrous, and I think anyone who buys into veganism after the Games Changers is basically an idiot. Like, you're either intellectually or scientifically illiterate. Like, intellectually deficient or scientifically illiterate. Let's just be realistic. But that's the norm. You go talk to a bunch of vegans, a lot of them have usually emotional and mental issues is the norm in their community. Right? That's the norm. So, He's just taking advantage of useful morons because he knows he can make some money on it. And you know what? It is what it is. It's just business. It's just business. I don't see it as a positive or a negative thing. And I think anyone who buys the book is obviously silly, but there's going to be a bias and a whole network of people who are going to push the book just because they can promote their agenda with it. It is what it is. I don't think it makes him anything but being a clever businessman at that point. All right, next question. Does the amount of protein one eats really matter in the long run when it is a minimum of 0.7 grams per pound of body weight? Most of the time, an occasional goes up to 0.9-ish. Well, what do you mean? Why are you necessarily consuming that amount? Here's the question we get into when it comes to protein intake. That's like saying, does the fat intake you eat really matter? Does the carb intake you eat really matter? Of course it matters. Yeah, it matters. It's going to affect your body composition, your recovery, everything else. Here's the problem we run into. People get too caught up in this nonsense of how much protein do I need to gain muscle? Well, not much at all. But that is completely irrelevant to the point, isn't it? People say, what? What do you mean? Okay, I have most of my clients eat a lot of protein. I exceed 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Now, am I doing so because I'm a bro? That's a serious question. No. It's because I understand that there are benefits to protein intake that exceed what's the maximum amount of protein I need to eat to facilitate muscle growth, bro. And if I eat more protein, will I get more gains, bro? Because gains are made of protein, bro. No, it's nothing to do with that. What about all the other aspects? How about the thermic effect? How about the satiety? How about the fact that protein overfeeding, when it's been looked at in studies, doesn't cause any fat gain? Well, there's a doozy. Protein, when it's overfed, does not cause fat gains. That's confirmed in studies. In other words, you take people at maintenance calories and you slam another 100 or 150 grams of protein at them on already a balanced maintenance diet. You know they don't gain any body fat? Like 6-week studies are done on that. They don't gain any body fat if they're at maintenance. If they were at their maintenance and you add that, their maintenance goes up to accommodate. So, when people hear me say things like I eat 4,000 calories a day and do large amounts of conditioning and I'm not gaining any body weight, been recomping, you're like, well, that's ludicrous. Like, is it really? If you look at the protein overfeeding studies, are you sure it's ludicrous? I don't think that it is. As protein intake goes up, NEAT goes up. Just like as conditioning goes up, if you bring up calories to go with it, NEAT goes up. Okay, increasing protein intake increases NEAT. Increasing protein also affects certain recoveries more. So there's a big kicker. Okay, especially the older we get. And that's why animal source protein matters, because of the bioavailability. We know that adding additional protein helps with connective tissue recovery, collagen synthesis, things like that. All right, to me, that's more important than stimulating muscle growth, because honestly, guys are like, how much extra protein do I need to eat to gain maximal muscle, bro? We're just talking about just to fuel muscle growth, a gram or 2 a day. Do you really think you're gaining more than 2 grams of muscle tissue, of actual protein tissue per day? You're not. You're absolutely not. The point we get to is, what about collagen synthesis, connective tissue recovery, connective tissue inflammation? Or what about people like me who do really high volume training? And I do very high volume training at this point. On my max days, it's not uncommon for me to do 15 sets of supplemental lifts that are oftentimes big exercises after hitting a max. Doing that twice a week, then my speed days are very high volume. Do 100 chin-ups every day. I do conditioning 3 days a week. Metcon. Right? That's a lot of training volume. I'm in my 40s. You look at it from that perspective, you're going to tell me that protein intake doesn't matter? Well, we know that it facilitates connective tissue recovery. Older lifters absorb less protein. Okay? Older meaning past 30, past 35. You absorb a little less protein. Okay? Connective tissue is more prone to inflammation. We know that increased protein and amino acid intake improves that. We're dealing with recovery issues. So when we're talking about, are you talking about training very, very hard? Then yeah, it does matter. And I'm going to say that your protein intakes you're even talking about for someone who is training very, very hard and they're not 20 years old anymore, a lot of training volume, I might say that you need to increase that. So when you ask me, does it matter? Yeah, it matters. It's just that its small benefits past a certain threshold. But here's what I would say. You want to know what your upper threshold is for protein intake? What's your food budget? What's your palate allow for? There's your upper threshold. How much are you willing to buy in terms of food? I'm not telling you to supplement it. I don't. So yeah, it does matter. It does matter. Don't get caught up in this, how much do I need to gain muscle? That's not really relevant to your upper thresholds, because that's not what it's about. Because you don't ask that with anything else. How much fat do I need to eat to gain muscle? You're not asking that. There's other downstream effects. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.